In this video, we're going to go ahead and show you how you can create your own flashbang effect. Alright, so to start us off, I have myself a camera and I just have it scrolling along a parallax background. And it'll give us that simulation of both movement and what you could expect if you were to be, say, looking around in a third-person shooter or a first-person shooter, whatever, before a flashbang goes off. Now, for my flashbang effect, I'll be using a sprite as well as a color rect, and I have both of mine just attached to the camera just so that it stays caught up with the camera. To implement this in the game, you'd probably, and more realistically, attach this to your GUI. My color rect has been renamed to Flash, and all I did is make that white, and it's big enough to cover my screen. That's all. And if I go ahead and bring modulate, you see I've got mine for my flashbang set to 174. This is a number you can tweak for yourself. So again, that's on my color rect. I call it Flash. Modularity, this modulate property under visibility is white, and it's set to 174 alpha. You can tweak this to what you would like, and then we're going to need an animation player. Now, when we think about a flashbang, we have a screen cap, essentially, because we have like a freeze frame of whatever happened at the time of the flash. We've got that fading out, and then we have a white, essentially white covering, right? Because to simulate our blindness during the flashbang. And that covers everything as well. So for myself, and again, you can tweak these numbers however you see fit, but the general idea for this, I've got mine set to 7 seconds. At 0, it is completely transparent, so my sprite has modulate all the way down at 0. At the end of my time, which for me is 7 seconds, again, I have my modulate down at 0 on both ends. And then in about 0.2 or 0.3 after, we can see there it says 0.2. I've got my flash turned all the way back up, so that's how mine would look at max brightness here. And that gives us that smooth ramp up while still being quick. Now, if you want it to be an instant flash, then you could have it modulate all the way up to 100% on the alpha from the start. But I feel this is more akin to what we would see in games, that smooth ramp up, but it's usually really quick. And then I just hold on to that 100% by then going to about halfway through my total animation. So my total is 7, halfway would be 3.5. I put mine at 3 seconds, so I'm just a little under half. And I put that at 100% as well. And with that gives us the smooth but fast ramp up. We hold on to that blinding effect for about 2.8 seconds in my case, and then we have our fade out back into the normal vision that someone would see when they're running around. So you can go ahead, tweak these, move these around, make your animation shorter, longer, whatever you want, whatever kind of feel you want for your game. And then we can move into the actual code of this. And for this, we're actually going to keep this clean, so we're going to put it into 3 functions here. And you can see here I'm just setting my camera's position by set speed amount, just to keep us moving. Now, I have myself a flash input that I put in for testing this. Of course, for you, it would go off when the flashbang explodes, based off of whoever's in whatever range or whatever for it. So I'm going to go ahead and say if input.is action. And for this, I'm going to say release because I don't want it to spam. And I'll do my flash key. And for now, I'll just hit pass. We can come on down and create our first function. I'm going to call it flashbang. It's going to have no properties. And the first thing we need to do is we need to get our screenshot, right? Our path to wherever this flash image is going to be held. So what I'm going to do for that is I'm going to create a variable called flash path. And this is going to be equal to a screen grab. And it's going to tell us that that function doesn't exist. That's fine. We can create it right now real quick. Screen grab. And this again will have no arguments, no parameters passed into it. And at the end of this, we are going to return the path that we're using. And in this case, the path that I'm going to use is going to be the user directory, because that's the safest place to use it on all devices, regardless of operating system. So we're going to say user://, and I'm just going to create my image called flashbang.png. It's going to be a temporary image, of course, but that's what we're going to return back. So if you're confused on how return works, at the end of our function, we're going to return this path. So when we set a variable equal to this function, what gets returned, in this case, this path, is what's going to be set to this variable. So flash path will be equal to this. But before that can be of any use, of course, we need to capture that screen. So we're going to say var capture, and we can set capture equal to our get viewport dot get texture dot get data. Alright, and then if you saw the screenshot video that we had last week, you'll remember that our image is actually upside down, so we have to flip it on the y-axis. That way we get it upright. And then we're just going to save the PNG, just like we did before. So capture.save underscore. Whoops, that's save. We want save PNG. And we're just going to pass in the same path that we are returning. Alright, so now flash path will be equal to the screenshot we just took and stored in a safe location. The next thing we need to do is we need to create a texture. So we're going to say var, back in our flashbang function here, we're going to say var texture, and we're going to set that equal to a function called create underscore text, and that's going to take in an argument of the flash path. There we go. And of course we have our error because it doesn't exist. So let's move on to creating this. And this function here that we're about to create, if you have any image on the user's computer, or you want the user to be able to select an image from their computer and then you want to display it in-game or inside of your application or whatever you want to do, this is how you would create a texture from it to apply to your texture rec or your sprite or whatever you want to put in there. So we'll go ahead and do func create texture, or func create text, and like we said, this will take a an argument. And in this case, I'm just going to call this my buffer. You can call it whatever you want; it does not matter whatsoever. And I mixed those two characters up. Alright, so what we're going to do with this is, the first thing we need to do to create a texture from an image is we're going to have a variable called image. This will be equal to image.new. We're also going to have another one called text, and this is just going to be set to a image texture.new. So now we have a new image and we have an image texture. Now, the image texture will allow you to create a texture from an image. So, next thing we need to do is we need to load that flash path that we got and load that into our image to create a texture out of it. So we can take image.load and we can pass in that path, which we're passing in as the parameter buffer. And then we can take our image texture, so text dot create from image, and pass in the image that we created and load it in. And then all we're going to do is return that texture. So now our variable texture is going to be the one that we created here from our function. Alright, so we're almost done here. Next up, we need to actually get the texture. Or we have the texture, we need to actually apply it to our sprite. So inside of our flashbang, we'll go ahead and, in my case, I'm going to get parent and get node. Your path, of course, may be different depending on how you set yours up. And I'm going to go ahead and get my sprite. So that's what I'm going to apply it to. Again, you could do this with a texture rec if you wanted to. Mine just happens to be a sprite. I'll do dot texture equals texture, which is our variable that, remember, is holding on the texture that we returned back to it. And then the last thing we need to do is play our sprite here. So we'll go ahead get parent dot get node. I keep that fingering those two buttons. Animation player. And we're going to do dot play. And we're going to play the flash animation that we created here at the bottom. And when our flash button gets pressed, we're just going to call flashbang. Now, we're going to go ahead and see this, and we're going to see that this works. It creates our flashbang effect. However, there is one issue with it. And you may like this, you may not like this. Again, this is going to be all up to you and your own game design. But if I were to spam this, say we get hit by a bunch of flashbangs, we're going to go pure white like that. And we're not going to see the previous image like this fade out at all. Now, you can see we can test it. So if we get it with 1, we have something like this. If we were to get hit with 2, it would be something more like boom. But you can see as we go ahead, as I just hit it again there, we saw it didn't really update the image. So you see as this is almost faded out, I'll hit the flash button again. As you see, the animation didn't really reset. So regardless of if you want your animation to be able to like stack up there or reapply itself, we still have that issue there. That happens. So we can go ahead and address that. And to address this, we're going to do a check. And we're going to say, if not, get parent dot get node, our animation player, dot is playing. So if not, get parent dot get node animation player is playing. So if our animation is not playing, then we can call flashbang. And the result for this means that we can flash and everything will be normal, but we won't be able to stack up as I spam the button. We can't get flashed again until it's completely over. That might be the result you want. That might not. And if that isn't the result you want, what we can do instead of putting that if check in there is we can call flashbang. And then if you want yours to still be able to stack up like before, but without that bug, after if you were to get flashed near the end, we're going to get parent, get node, and we're going to get our animation player again, and we're going to set, we can do .seek, set that back to second 0, so that would be at the very beginning of our animation, and pass in true as our argument, and that should fix that issue for us. And we're running out, boom, and you see we're completely flashbanged again, boom, and you can see no matter how we go on this, the flashbang still occurs just like it should. So if you want to be able to have flashbangs stack up, you can do it that way. Alternatively, if you don't want to use seek for whatever reason, we should be able to use advance and pass in 0, and we should get the same result. So if we wait a second, make sure, boom, and you can see it. It goes not as, it doesn't work as well, not nearly as well. As you can see, we still have that kind of like bug going in. So I would highly recommend that we use seek if you wanted to go that route of having them stack up. Again, if you don't want your flashes to stack up, you want one flash, wait until that's over, then allow the user to be flashed again. Then you simply just put in that if check in there to check if the animation player is playing. If not, call Flashbang. There we go. We'll take a look at it just the one more time. Boom. Take a look. Boom. That's fading out. Boom. We can grab another screen cap. And it keeps getting brighter and brighter of that, obviously, because we're still capturing that white screen that's going on. But there we go. That's how you create a flashbang effect. You now know how to not only create a flashbang effect, but you know how to get your screen grab, just like last time from the screenshot video of last week, as well as you know how to take an image from a user's computer via a path and create a texture out of that for something that you can use in your game. And there's a lot of cool things that you can do with that, with allowing the user to add their own little customization in there. Almost like modding. But there you go. I don't want to ramble on anymore, but there's how we create a flashbang effect for our games. I'd say software, but I don't really know why you'd flash someone in the software. But that'll do it for this video. If you have any questions, comments, or something that you want to see or have help with, you can leave a comment down below, and we'll definitely make sure to get to that.